Hey everybody, check this out. I just learned a magic trick. Poof! Whoa, that's insane! I just made a flower appear out of thin air! It wasn't there, and now it is there! I truly have supernatural powers! Barry, look at it. I give to you this sunflower. Symbolic of, the sun. Yes, I'll just put it back here in your suit. I'm sure that'll fit nicely, and it does. Okay. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Tekking and Barry back again, and in today's video, as I'm sure you already could tell from the title, we are discussing, that's right, geography. But not ordinary geography. We're discussing geography of living things. That's right. Biology, which is a subset of geography because geography, as we all know, is everything. But yes, biology today. So magnificent. Learn it! Learn it! Learn these words over here. I don't really know. Eukarya? I don't know what that is. That sounds like some kind of peanut or whatever. But anyway, learn it, okay? So, I'm just gonna throw it out there. Do you think plant-based zones could exist? Probably the first reaction I'm going to get from a lot of people is, no, absolutely not. That was a horrible idea. Mostly because, well, just setting aside the fact that literally every single zone devil fruit user up until this point in the story are all animals, you know, canon or non-canon or otherwise, all animals. Sometimes, you know, Oda mixes it up. Sometimes we get insect zones or arachnid zones, like, for example, the spider fruit that Black Maria has, or Onigumo's fruit. We'll get something a little bit like that, or we'll get dinosaurs, or mythical animals, but animals they all are. So putting that aside for right now, just the word zone, the kanji that is used for that devil fruit classification, uses the kanji Daobutsu, meaning animal, or animals, or a lot of animals. Animals is in the kanji, so therefore, animals only, no plants, alright? Fair enough, fair point, but also you have to remember Vegapunk exists, and everybody's like, oh, that's right, yeah, Vegapunk does exist. Yeah, Vegapunk kind of throws a wrench into everything, doesn't he? Because, yeah, Caesar was only able to develop the smiles, you know, the artificial devil fruits, the zones. However, it was stated in SBS that Caesar, that was the limit for him, okay? Vegapunk, he might have cracked the nugget when it came to Paramecias or Logias. He took the Pika Pika no Mi laser from Kizaru's fruit and he adapted it into the Pacifistas, okay? So, I'm just saying, if there's anybody out there that could create a plant-based devil fruit, and if it didn't already exist in the zone category, that would be Vegapunk. But before we even get to that, before we even start talking about Vegapunk possibly engineering one of them, I wanted to talk about the idea of plant-based fruits in general. Because I was just talking about this with Sensei in a collab we did last week, and we brought up Green Bull, alright? So Admiral Green Bull, you know, what's his devil fruit going to be? We don't really know much about him. We just know a little bit about his personality. We know that he's in the middle of a fast right now, so he's not really eating anything. And we know he likes, you know, women, the same as Sanji, right? Their personalities are very similar in that regard. But other than that, we don't really know much about him. However, going with the scheme with a lot of the admirals, you know, for example, Akainu was the red dog, and he had the power of magma. Aokiji was the blue pheasant, and he could summon ice. You know, he had the pheasant ability to summon ice, okay? And Fujitora is gravity, but in the anime, it's usually depicted with, like, you know, purple gravity. Because as any physicist will tell you, gravity's color is purple, right? Obviously, that's the color of gravity, okay? So if we're going to go with Green Bull, most people arrive at the conclusion that it's going to be some kind of plant-based fruit or nature or something of the like, okay? Problem is, we have not really seen any of these before in the story. We've seen them in non-canon adaptations, like, for example, movies and filler arcs and stuff, but even then, it's sort of like in this weird gray area, okay? So the two examples that came to mind right away, number one was Mushiru, who was Wapple's brother from the 9th One Piece movie, and he had the power of the Noko Noko no Mi, or the mushroom fruit, which I'm sure made him a lot of fun at parties for a bunch of different reasons. But no, he could summon mushroom spores, okay, and he could use that to attack you, and, you know, there's a bunch of different kinds of, like, poisonous and toxic kinds of mushrooms and stuff that can hurt the enemy and make mushrooms grow all over you and stuff. Now, mushrooms are obviously fungi, they're not plants, but, you know, it's something different, right? I mean, most paramecias are, you know, turn you into rubber, or separate your body, or summon wax, or summon poison, or do your laundry really well, as with Osaru's fruit. By the way, we're going to get back to that in a second, because that's something else that might lead into, you know, what devil fruits really are at their core, at their nature. But that was Mushroom's fruit, okay? He could summon mushrooms, all right? Which is different. And then we also have Beans. And Beans was one of the enemies during film Z, and he was the ninja dude that had the power of the Grow fruit, okay? And it was specifically for plants. So he could, like, make the grass grow on the sunny on any plant, and he could kind of manipulate that. So he could summon vines up and roots from the ground to, like, trap the enemy and, like, attack them that way, okay? Even then, it's a little bit indirect, okay? It really does seem, because Oda's, said this before, whenever the anime team or the movie team comes up to Oda and they're like, hey, we're making the next One Piece movie or this OVA, we want to use this devil fruit, is that going to be okay? Oda sort of has to give the green light for that, all right? And a lot of times Oda will be like, yeah, well, maybe you can make it something different because I already want to do that at some point in the story. There were like, and I've said this before, there were like 4 different kinds of devil fruits that all revolved around generating heat before Oven actually properly appeared in the manga, who has the canonical heat-based fruit, okay? But there was Don Asino, there was Bill, there was the Bear King. So what if a few times before this, people have come to Oda and they were like, hey, we want to have a devil fruit that allows the user to turn into a plant, or turn into a tree, or summon vines, or, turn their arms into vines or something like that. And what if Oda said, no, I'm going to use that at some other point in the story, I have a plan for that character, for that devil fruit, and then they came up to them and they're like, and then maybe the compromise there with Film Z was like, oh, okay. But this character, Beans, he's not going to actually turn into plants or summon plants from himself. He just has a devil fruit that allows him to accelerate the growth of plants and other sorts of, like, vines and stuff, and ensnare the opponent. Could he do that? And maybe Oda was sort of like, okay, yeah, I mean, that's not the exact same thing as turning into a plant or summoning plants from your body. You're controlling the plants, like, they have to be plants that already exist in nature, and you have a little bit of, like, telekinesis. You can kind of, control plants that way. Yeah, okay, fine, I'll give the green light for that. And that's how we got the character in the movie, right? But other than that, we really don't have any other examples. Okay, there is one other example, and this is sort of not the same thing, but remember Mancherry, the Tontada princess that has the power of the Heal fruit? Well, Mancherry did have an ability with her fruit that allowed her to summon a dandelion. But it's not really a dandelion, it's just the way that her healing powers are manifesting in the form of a dandelion. She's not actually creating plant matter or a flower or anything like that. It's probably something similar to, like, Galdino, Mr. 3. He has the power of the wax fruit. He made that giant cake with a pumpkin on top of it, like the jack-o'-lantern, but it was made out of wax, okay? So it's the same thing probably with Mancherry. Like, just the way the healing abilities manifest is in the form of a dandelion. She's not actually making real plant life, okay? So aside from those examples that that's the only ones I've honestly found, not really a lot of other plant-based devil fruits, especially in the canon of One Piece, that are out there, okay? So with that all being said, you might arrive at the conclusion like, yeah, sure, okay, Oda might very well have some kind of plant-based devil fruit. Maybe even Green Bull will have that sort of devil fruit, based on his name, Green Bull, that would make sense. However, you're probably saying it will be most likely a paramecia. Zones are reserved for animals. Paramecia, he'll have some kind of ability to summon vines from his body, or maybe various kinds of, like, poisonous plant life that he can, like, afflict the opponent. Like, he can throw poison oak or poison ivy at you. By the way, have you ever been afflicted with poison ivy? I was. When I was like 5 or 6, I was at my grandfather's farm, just walking around in the woods, and walked right through a bunch of poison ivy, and it wasn't fun. And I don't remember too much of it, but it was very, very itchy. But anyway, yeah, so that would be very bad if, Green Bull could summon poison ivy and just, like, wrap it around the opponent, and then, like, you are defeated, and, it's One Piece, it's anime, so, like, the disease would probably be a lot worse. Like, all of a sudden, as soon as you're, like, wrapped up in this poisonous vine, your body would break out in, like, an immediate rash, and you get, like, boils and anything, and you'd be like, oh no, this is so horrible. That might be his ability, but it would be a paramecia, okay? Okay, well, yes, it is true that, Zoan, the name Zoan and the kanji all relate to animals, okay? And the word zone itself probably comes from zoanthropy, which is the term for being able to shapeshift, to beast morph into animals, okay? So it seems like animals is the focus. However, there is one piece of information here, and this is a little bit of a grasping at straws moment, but I just want to throw this out there as a possibility, okay? And then we have some other ideas beyond this, but this is just one idea, okay? So, It seems that the word paramecia comes from paramecium, all right, which is a type of like single-celled organism, all right? And also, you have protozoa, which there's another way to say protozoa, which is protozoan. All right, so it's like two words that mean the same thing, okay? And so this is a protozoan or protozoa. Now, for a very, very long time, protozoa were classified as single-celled animals, basically. Probably like what the limit of what an animal could really be considered, because this is going way, 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 way far back up the tree of life, or down the tree of life, or like a bush branching out. It's a long, long time ago, okay? These things are old, all right? So, for a long time, people considered these to just be single-celled animals, all right? However, in like the last, ever since like the middle of the 20th century, it's been kind of debated whether or not they really are animals, or even if they are, like, I'll be honest with you, they're not even considered plants or fungi. There's something else, okay? I remember when I was in school, when I was like first learning like basic biology, they always taught me like, okay, you got three kingdoms of life. You got Animalia, you got Plantae, and then you got fungi. And those were the three kingdoms, okay? But upon doing some extra research here, we have, well, there's domains and super kingdoms beyond that, archaea, bacteria, eukarya, there's that word again. But then right here we have Animalia, Plantae, fungi, protista, and monera? I don't know what that is. But there's a lot more in, later years. We've discovered other stuff beyond just the three, okay? So the general consensus is that protozoa are now maybe something closer to protists. All right, so that's a little bit different than just being an animal, okay? That's the basic premise I'm getting across here, okay? Things have sort of changed. Also, I want to bring this up. There have been times before where Oda has actually modified Devil Fruit users based on new findings, because One Piece is almost 25 years old at this point. Things will come up. Like, for example, with the Spinosaur, with page 1's dinosaur fruit, okay? When we initially see the Spinosaur, its tail is just like a regular sort of like dinosaur lizard tail, okay? Later on, when he depicts page 1 in a later fight at Onigashima, page 1's tail now has like a fin added onto it. And that's because there were recent discoveries in the field of paleontology that the Spinosaur, back during when it lived, would actually swim, and its tail would help with that. So because of that new information that Oda learned, he actually modified page 1's Spinosaur design. So I think that's actually pretty cool just in and of itself, that Oda, like, keeps up to speed with like, oh, they found out something new about the Spinosaur. Well, I better modify this design that I had, okay? So I'm just throwing that out there, like, the idea that, Zoan is maybe taken or a reference to protozoan, which are protozoa, and they used to be considered animals, like, pure part of the animal kingdom, but now there's something else altogether. Actually, something else that I wanted to bring up that is actually very interesting. A kanji that is present in all of the different classifications of Devil Fruit, Logia, Zoan, and Paramecia, is the kanji for K, because that kind of appears at the end of all of them. So like Zoan K, Paramecia K, all right? K stands for system or lineage or group, okay? So it could just mean right there that it's like, oh, this is the group of zones, the animal transformation fruits. This is the group or the system of Logias, the element-based fruits. Okay, fair enough. But then you also have to remember lineage factor is a thing now. So in One Piece, we seem to be diving into this concept of, genetics and DNA, and Vegapunk's the one that really discovered that, and then also Judge is developing clones, and Queen developed all these viruses, making the Isoni viruses, probably messing with somebody's DNA in the process, okay? And Vegapunk is capable of making artificial devil fruits, which are also included with the lineage factor research and everything like that. It really seriously got me thinking that I don't even really know how to phrase this, but maybe devil fruits are like the origin of all life and all existence. I know that doesn't really sound that doesn't make sense, but allow me to explain the best I can, which isn't going to be great. Look at devil fruits and what their abilities really range to be. it's everything, right? Like, there's devil fruits that have the raw power of the elements. Like, you can turn into fire and magma and lightning and mud and snow and ice. And then you have zones that allow you to turn into pretty much any kind of animal, living creature that we've seen, other than plants, up until now, right? Mammals and birds and insects and arachnids and all that stuff. No giant crabs or giant duck zones yet, but, you know, we're going to get there, okay? It's going to happen, right? And then you get paramecia. And paramecias are like, okay, Luffy can turn into rubber. That makes sense. Rubber does exist in the world, naturally, okay. And then you get ones like Buggy that can separate his body. It's like, okay, whatever. But then you get stuff like, you know, Blue-and-O's door fruit. Like, you gotta understand, like, take a step back and think about that for a moment. A door is not a naturally occurring thing. That is a tool, an object, a concept that was created by human beings. And there's a lot of fruits that are like that. Osaru's wash fruit is like that. I want to also clarify, Osaru's fruit is not the manipulation of soap. That's Califa's. It's also not the manipulation of water. Okay, there is no water fruit that we know of so far. There could be, okay? You know, whoever ate the fruit after Cyril died from One Piece D&D or whatever. No, Osaru's paramecia is the concept of laundry. Literally, to take somebody and hang them up off to dry off the washing line, like, that's the concept of the fruit. The concept of laundry, which is not a naturally occurring concept or thing that existed in nature. Mostly because animals typically do not wear clothing. You know what I mean? You know, a deer does not have a concept of, oh man, I better do my laundry. I better take off my coat and do my laundry, right? And Baby Fives, Buki no Mi, a fruit that allows you to metamorphosize into any sort of weapon. That's not something that's like a tool created by humans, okay? So that makes me think, like, wherever devil fruits come from, naturally occurring fruits that grow on trees, they're magical fruits, but they still grow in nature on trees, have all of these concepts into them. So it's almost like they have access to not just naturally occurring phenomena, but also man-made things and tools and weaponry and concepts, even vague concepts. Like, it's a devil fruit based on the concept of laundry itself. Like, that's a very obscure thing. Now, you could always say, like, oh, well, Oda, you know, he's just Oda. He's gonna do that. Don't think too much into it. But I don't know, guys. You know, just the idea that the kanji's there for lineage or group, and then we have lineage factor discussed. I think it's all going to tie together in a really big way. Like, you know, you could come and spin it in the way of, like, you know, devil fruits are the origin of all matter. Now we're getting kind of Attack on Titan with it, but possibly. So I'm just throwing it out there. With all that being said, why can't there be a plant zone? For any number of reasons. I mean, the easiest one could be just Oda changed his mind, or if he wants a logical explanation for it, well, there are several. Vegapunk figured it out. Vegapunk discovered, like, oh, there are no plant zones, but I can take what I learned from the zone concept, mess around with the lineage factor, the genetic or DNA structure, or whatever the hell makes a devil fruit up, because it is a fruit, it is a living thing, technically, I guess. And so he can mess with that, and he can make a zone of anything he wants. It doesn't even necessarily have to be an animal, okay? And maybe that'll lead to a whole new reclassification of anything, right? That's a thing that could be a possibility. Also, animals and plants and fungi and everything, all living things, are related. They all connect back. That's kind of the whole point of the tree of life and everything like that. It all originates at a point, okay? In our world, that was probably like, you know, single-celled, like, I don't even know what you would call them. They're very, very old, living at the bottom of the ocean and whatever. I think it was the vents at the bottom of the ocean where, like, the first types of, like, what you can consider life began to emerge, okay? Like, feeding off of the chemical soup at the bottom of the ocean, right, okay? So, if that's the situation there, maybe swap that out for devil fruits, maybe. I don't know, maybe devil fruits were the first thing that exists, and then devil fruits also maybe have a sort of aura or sentience about them, so they're aware. You know, this was actually brought up during the Enies Lobby arc by Califa and Kaku when they were about to eat their fruits. they commented on that there was some strange force or like a gravity, a pressure that existed around the devil fruits. And Jabra was terrified because he thought that like an actual devil lived in the devil fruits. Now, Blue and O calmed him down and said like, oh, there are no devils in devil fruits, you know, well, we don't really know about that, but, you know, devils aren't going to jump out of you and start attacking. Like, that's already been confirmed, okay? So maybe not devils in that sense, but maybe there is a level of sentience to these things. So when humanity comes up with a new concept, like sushi, for example. Sushi doesn't naturally exist. You know, humans, you have to have a chef that actually makes sushi. So the concept of sushi exists in One Piece. So maybe now there could exist a sushi no mi. There could exist a devil fruit that allows you to create sushi. I mean, that kind of already exists with the ingredient fruit that Stroyson has, you know, from the, you know, Totland and everything. But hey, right away, there you go. That's like another one that's sort of like a human concept of like cooking that was created, okay? So if devil fruits have a sentience and there are maybe devils or demons or something living inside of them, they choose to create a new version of a devil fruit whenever a new concept is created. Let's say in the One Piece world, if nuclear weapons were ever developed, okay? We're kind of making a dark turn here, but what if they were? Like, nuclear and hydrogen weapons were developed in the One Piece world. Would there then be a devil fruit that would grow with the concept of nuclear power? You know, the nuke fruit. Could be, possibly. So with that being said, I think plant fruits can exist. And I like the idea of it being a plant-based zone as opposed to a paramecia or logia, because the idea of actually turning your body into a plant, first of all, would look really cool. Imagine Green Bull turning into like Swamp Thing or some sort of, you know, plant-human hybrid, right? It would be terrifying. He would just be covered in vines and have like, you know, spit seeds out of his mouth, like seeds for teeth or whatever, or like jagged thorns for teeth, and he could have like all these vines coming out of him and stuff. Like, it's not just surrounding his body in thorns or vines or leaves or whatever, actually becoming that. And so like he attacks you, and like let's say Zoro takes out a sword or something and slices off his damn arm. It's not just like a vine armor or something like a paramecia would be. He actually slices off his whole arm, and it's like, you know, green goo and blood, like a mixture is like spewing out, and then he's like, he just regrows the arm like, ha ha ha, you cannot defeat me, Zoro, and he like wraps him in the vines. This could also explain, and this is sort of the theory on why he is, you know, a nature zone to begin with. The theory comes from the fact he was fasting and he was out in the sun at Reverie, so maybe perhaps he can subsist on the sunlight, on photosynthesis, all right? If he was a paramecia, I guess you could make it work there too. Like, oh, he has the paramecia tree fruit, and that's why he can exist on, you know, sunlight alone. But it would make even more sense if he was a straight-up zone, that he could actually turn part of his body into a plant, so he could actually like turn his feet into roots and then, you know, burrow into the ground to get nutrients, or just being out in the sun is enough to give him sustenance, okay? It would also serve as another way to spin just devil fruits in general. Like, at this point in the story, it's been 25 years, we think we have a handle on what devil fruits are, but every now and then Oda throws a curveball at us, like, oh, by the way, Katakuri is a special paramecia. Never heard that term before, never mentioned by anybody. Special paramecia? What is this now? Are there more of those? How are those classified, right? So there you go. And then he can do the curveball again with Green Bull, where he could be fighting somebody and he can use plant-based attacks, and they might think, oh, you're a plant-based paramecia. Okay, I'll fight you. And then that's when Green Bull reveals, no, you're right about the plants, but I'm not a paramecia. I am literally a plant-human hybrid. I can literally turn into a plant, into a tree. For espionage and covert operations, that would actually be extremely useful. He could literally turn into like vines on a wall or something. And since he's a plant, not necessarily a specific type of plant, plant cells work different from animals, so maybe he could choose. Maybe he could choose to be a tree if he wanted to, or a bunch of vines, you know? I don't know much about plants or biology in that respect. I threw out an idea as I was driving home today. I don't even know if this is possible, but like, could he clone himself? Like, you know, you take a plant, take part of the plant off and like plant it in some other soil, and they could also grow, you know, and seeds too, or pollen, or whatever plants do. You know, he could like make pollen of himself to make more green bulls or whatever if he did have that ability. That would be something that would definitely be more catered to him, you know, physically becoming a plant rather than just summoning plants. What would be a paramecia, or like growing plants like Bean's ability was, okay? So I don't know if it's possible. As for like a plant logia, It is naturally occurring, it is an element, and not all Logias need to be intangible. Aokiji has the power of cold, and he turns into ice. So I guess it could be a Logia too, by that logic. That's what I'm basically saying, though, is that kind of at this point in the story, with what we're about to learn involving devil fruits, and also don't think of it like Oda's just making stuff up at the end, like he's disregarding his own rules, you know, special paramecias, plant zones? That doesn't make any sense. Think of it more of like Oda has an idea for what these are and where they come from and everything, and it's like, ah, yes, the devil fruit. It's the origin of all matter, you know? So you got, you know, humans, fishmen, merfolk, giants, minks, every living thing that we have seen in this story up until this point might all connect back to devil fruits. And maybe not even every living thing, because, like I said, concepts like weapons and doors and laundry also exist in the devil fruits. For those to exist, I still feel there has to be a level of sentience to these things to have, like, fruits that embody those kind of concepts, all right? So, you know, if that can be the case, if there could be, bottom line, TLDR, if there could be a laundry fruit, there can be a plant fruit. I would like plant zone, but we'll see where it goes. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down below what you guys think about this. And if you're a biologist or somebody that knows more about plants, let me know how that could work. Let me know how theory, a human-plant hybrid. Wasn't there a Goosebumps book about that at some point? I seem to remember reading a Goosebumps book about that a long time ago. How that could work, you know, if Green Bull, in anime, you know, fictional kind of terms, you know, if Green Bull could turn into a human-plant hybrid, what would that be? And then his full plant form is just, he turns into a tree. He's like this giant swamp thing, you know, he's attacking people, and he's like, now I will show you my true plant form! Turns into a tree. Can't move. He's a tree. But he's there. Okay. Well, anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking and Barry signing out. Poof! Magic.